Noam Chomsky presents 5 filters of the propaganda model in his work Manufacturing Consent. First, ownership and profit orientation. The first filter in the propaganda model is the concentration of media ownership in the hands of a few large corporations. Chomsky and Herman argue that as media outlets have become increasingly concentrated and corporatized, their primary goal has shifted from informing the public to generating profit. This shift influences the type of content that is produced, as news that could threaten the interests of media owners or their corporate affiliates is less likely to be covered. Instead, media organizations tend to focus on stories that are sensational, trivial, or aligned with the interests of the ruling elite. The book also explains how media ownership is concentrated among a few conglomerates, which are themselves part of the broader corporate structure that includes interests in other industries. This interconnectedness creates a situation where media organizations have a vested interest in protecting the status quo and avoiding content that could undermine the economic or political interests of their owners. Second, advertising as the primary income source. The second filter is the role of advertising as the main source of revenue for most media outlets. Chomsky and Herman argue that because media organizations rely heavily on advertising dollars, they are incentivized to produce content that appeals to advertisers rather than to the public interest. Advertisers prefer content that attracts large audiences, avoids controversy, and aligns with their own business interests. As a result, the media tends to shy away from stories that could alienate advertisers or challenge the consumerist culture that underpins their business model. They also provide examples of how media content is shaped by the need to attract advertising revenue, leading to the exclusion of topics that might be critical of corporate practices or government policies. This filter ensures that the media reinforces the existing power structures rather than challenging them. Third, sourcing mass media news. The third filter is the reliance on official sources and experts for news content. Chomsky and Herman argue that media organizations are dependent on government agencies, corporations, and other institutional sources for their bulk of their news. These sources are often seen as credible and authoritative, and they provide a steady stream of information that is easy for journalists to access and report on. However, this reliance on official sources means that the media often uncritically reproduces the viewpoints of those in power, while alternative perspectives are marginalized. They also describe how this filter operates by limiting the range of debate and ensuring that the news reflects the interests of the elite. They also discuss the role of think tanks and other institutions that provide experts who reinforce the dominant narrative, further narrowing the scope of discussion. 4. Flake and the enforcers. The fourth filter is flake, a term Chomsky and Herman use to describe the negative responses that media outlets receive when they produce content that is critical of powerful interests. Flake can take the form of letters, lawsuits, petitions, and other forms of pressure that are aimed at disciplining the media and discouraging dissent. They explain how flake is often orchestrated by powerful groups such as corporations, government agencies, and lobbies who seek to protect their interests by discrediting or intimidating journalists and media organizations. This filter acts as a form of self-censorship as media outlets become wary of producing content that could provoke a backlash from influential actors. 5. Anti-communism as a control mechanism. The final filter is the ideological control mechanism, which in the context of the Cold War, Chomsky and Herman identified as anti-communism. They argue that anti-communism was used as a national religion to justify repression, marginalize dissent, and frame conflicts in terms that supported US foreign policy. The media played a crucial role in propagating this ideology by framing news stories in a way that demonized communism and portrayed US actions as necessary to defend freedom and democracy. In later editions, this filter has been expanded to include other ideological enemies such as terrorism or rogue states, which serve a similar function in justifying military interventions and suppressing alternative viewpoints. The authors argue that this filter ensures that the media remains aligned with the interests of the state and its allies, while critical perspectives are marginalized or demonized.